All right, we're live. What is going on, everybody? We are live. It is Monday, and we're doing a stream because we have breaking news. Really, the biggest development that we've seen in the last few weeks. Iran and Israel are now going tit for tat with missile strikes. And who would have guessed this? I mean, there's no surprise there. So I'm going to get straight into all the news. I have an article here by what I believe to be the New York Times. But I mean, man, oh man. Man, oh man. Sorry, you couldn't hear that. Play that again. Yeah, no shortage of worry for anybody in the Middle East currently. So we're going to get into all the good stuff. I added a new edit. Did you guys like that edit? Did you guys like that edit? I added a new edit. That's why I was kind of taking long. I said, yo, this edit is getting really old and tiresome. It's becoming redundant. Our president will start a war with Iran. So I had to add something in there. Shout out to Grizzly AEP on TikTok. That's where that's from. I put the credit. I kind of put it in the top right. So go check out his page, give him a follow. Does really good stuff. I saw that edit come up on my For You page today, and I said, that's got to be in the pre-show intro. Come on. That's just too good. So we're going to read an article. I'm going to give you guys the live updates as to what's been happening. A lot of developments in the last 24 hours. And if you haven't been paying attention, I'll give you the long and short of it, but I'll go into the details in a moment. Pretty much, Iran had been telling Israel from the get-go not to touch any province close to Beirut or Beirut as a whole. And Israel called their bluff on Sunday. And they hit a province south of Beirut called Lahia or Dahia, whatever you want to call it, English, Arabic. And this is a Shia majority suburb right south of Beirut. And obviously, Iran said that that is a red line. Now, from Israel's standpoint, they say that this is a Hezbollah stronghold. I mean, everything really is a Hezbollah or Hamas stronghold. You know, the whole world is Hamas. The whole world is Hezbollah. And so there really aren't any red lines for Israel, despite the 3,500 plus civilian death count, which is likely higher after all of this conflict resolves. And so, you know, at the cost of civilians, at the cost of infrastructure, at the cost of children, Israel has to make sure that Hezbollah has no presence anywhere on earth, even if that means carpet bombing villages and displacing millions of people, which has been the case since the get-go or the outset of this war on February 28th, moving into March, when Israel had launched out orders at every single resident in southern Lebanon to vacate their homes because they were about to start a bombing campaign and mobilize IDF forces on the ground to create a buffer zone from the Litani River all the way to the southern border. And that's effectively what has happened, as they have now captured the symbolic area, Beaufort Castle, the first time that they've had control of that area or anywhere around that area in 26 years. Since 2000, the IDF had not had control of that area. And so, as I've said before, and I've been telling you guys, this is what's going to happen. This is why you need to watch the show, because all of my predictions have been correct. Israel is ramping up its campaign on southern Lebanon like it never has before. And they've made the most progress they have ever made, really, in recent history. And they're not about to let big old scary Donald Trump, who's currently at the Knicks game, obviously does not care about what's happening right now in the Middle East. Otherwise, he wouldn't be wasting his time at a NBA Finals game. But they're not about to let this big, scary American president tell them what they can and can't do when they've made so much progress in their struggle to decapitate the Iranian regime, but really the proxy network that offers a lot of threat upon each and every one of their borders, that being the Gaza Strip, Yemen. That's not really a border, but the Gaza Strip. And then, of course, you have Hezbollah, which is South Lebanon. And so they told them, and I guess I'm just giving you guys a rundown at this point. I always do this. But Iran laid out firm demands, and this had been a clause and a stipulation of their ceasefire agreement with Donald Trump since April 7th. Iran says, do not touch anything south of Beirut. And honestly, they said hands off of southern Lebanon as a whole. Israel didn't listen. They started their bombing campaign on April 8th with 100 plus strikes on several provinces around southern Lebanon, and had killed hundreds of people in a matter of hours as a result, which ended up turning into, I think, 300 or 400, if I'm not mistaken, and thousands upon thousands of people displaced. And so Iran had honestly been kind of holding back. And if you've been paying attention, anybody who's smart online was saying and telling you, and I didn't even see this coming, to be honest, that Iran was about to launch strikes on Israel. And the only reason I did not think it may have happened, or I was kind of reluctant to make that prediction on stream, was because to me, I would think that Iran wants some sort of peace deal as well. This escalation has now displayed to us that Iran is not concerned. Iran has just greenlit themselves for U.S. and Israeli aggression. They are ready for it. In what world would Iran actually have the guts to hit Israel first? And so they hit Dahya, which Iran said on the 2nd, I believe, of June, which was last Tuesday, not to touch that province. Israel does it anyways. And as a response, Ansar Allah, which is the Houthis in Yemen, as well as the other proxy group located in southern Lebanon, Hezbollah, as we all know, launched rocket attacks and missile attacks at central and northern Israel. And Israel responded. Before they responded, there was a rumor going around in the press that they had asked President Trump if they can hit energy infrastructure in Iran and plummet the entire country into darkness. Trump said no, and Trump even went as far as to say, don't strike back. Obviously, Israel is not going to listen to him because they call the shots, and so they respond. And they hit Iran back with several missile strikes, and Iran responds, and now they're going tit for tat, and it's this whole thing all over again. And Iran had promised that if Israel hits its energy infrastructure or any critical infrastructure that's going to plummet the country into darkness, starve people, deprive them of water, of resources, whatever it is, well, then they'd hit the Gulf as a result, and they would plummet the entire region into darkness. And this has been the concern for Donald Trump ever since the war had started. He realized Iran really held the keys because they can make him feel a whole lot of pain by hitting his allies in the Gulf. So lots and lots of things to kind of get into here. That's a brief rundown of the last 24 hours, though. Iran told Israel not to step over that red line. Israel continued its bombing campaign on southern Lebanon. By the way, not even targeting just Hezbollah militants of that proxy group, which is not representative of the state of Lebanon, but even killing Lebanese army officers and Lebanese army soldiers. There's no red lines here. And so Iran said, you know what, enough is enough, and they struck Israel. And obviously Donald Trump is back home pulling his hair out about this because he desperately wants a peace deal. Despite what all the MAGA shills say, I'm afraid to inform you that Donald Trump desperately wants the Strait of Hormuz open. Anybody who has any semblance of knowledge in geopolitical affairs would tell you the same thing. But don't listen to the guys that are going to tell you, no, because Venezuela and Panama, and this is all a grab for being the global oil hegemon and choking China out of their oil. China runs on coal. The 50 or 40% that oil that is supplied to China via the Strait of Hormuz is not even that critical for them at this time because Iran is likely filling that gap as long as Russia's there as well. And you've got the Caspian Sea. Who knows what they're doing there, which is not even really a sea. It's like a big fat lake. And it's the largest lake in the world, I believe. And they're utilizing that as well. China's fine. China can buffer through this conflict. Donald Trump needs the Strait open. And so long as Israel continues to attack southern Lebanon, that won't happen because that is a red line for Iran. And what did I say from the beginning? And I don't mean to continuously say, I told you so, but I damn sure did actually tell you so. What did I say since the beginning? So long as Israel is in the middle of this conflict between Iran and the United States, they will agitate the matter and they will utilize southern Lebanon as a means to do so. By the way, Gaza has not gotten any better. Gaza is still under fire. People are still innocently being bombed in Gaza. Children are still dying. And so nothing has changed. This is Trump's America. This is Trump's world. This is MAGA for you. This is making America great again, isn't it? I mean, look at the Middle East. It is in turmoil. It's in absolute shambles. It's the worst it's ever been in recent history. Iran is involved in a war now. Iran is fighting Israel. The two regional powers, really. There's no other two countries that you wouldn't want fighting than Iran and Israel. You know, Israel being the nuclear power, Iran hedging to a nuke, almost being a nuclear power. And now it's for sure that they likely will be a nuclear power after this is all said and done with. They're not going to downblend their uranium. They're not going to get rid of the uranium. They're not going to relocate it. They may not even agree to inspections again because Israel is right there with a big dirty bomb ready to just plummet the country into darkness and turn it into a parking lot like they did with Gaza. And so you got a situation where there's so many things moving at the same time. But the biggest thing for you to understand is Trump no longer has escalation dominance. He never did, but he really doesn't have it now. And we have now entered an escalation ladder. And so there have been some statements. I don't think if there's been any recent developments that are major yet, but there's been some statements that Iran is going to de-escalate and so is Israel. And Trump said, stop fighting on Truth Social. And he's making it seem like he has control. You have control of nothing. Donald Trump has control of nothing. And he's at the Knicks game right now, like an asshole, while the United States is suffering economically due to his bad decisions by dragging us into a war in the Middle East. And so that's the situation, and who didn't see this coming? I will say I didn't foresee Iran striking so soon, but Israel has been very aggressive in their campaign in southern Lebanon. And Ben Gvir just the other day, and we spoke about this, had said, I don't care what Netanyahu says, I don't care what Donald Trump says, guess what? We're going to invade Lahia, and we're going to strike it. And as a result, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and the IRGC, the whole axis of resistance has responded. And I also predicted about 5 or 6 weeks ago that the Houthis would mobilize and clog up the Red Sea. And now that's what we're seeing in mainstream reports as well. They're going to close or make it difficult for ships to pass through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. And that is responsible for about 12% of the world's oil supply, which is vital. That goes into the Red Sea. North, it goes into the Suez Canal. With that passageway being clogged up or obstructed, Europe is really going to suffer a deeper shortage than they already did. And you add that 12% of global oil shortage to the already existing 20% that's short, now you've got 32%. So if you thought Brent crude was high, so long as the Houthis stay active, which they did during the Gaza conflict, gas is probably going to get worse, and oil shortages will only become more prevalent and more real and more dire and drastic for these countries in Asia and these countries in the Indo-Pacific, really, or any country in Europe. And again, this is all because Donald Trump made a horrible mistake on February 28th. And this is the problem. There's people who are still sitting here, running around, walking around saying, well, the war in Iran is not that big of a deal and it's not affecting us. I cannot believe anybody's still on Donald Trump's side. If you are a MAGA shill, you are anti-American. Let me set the record straight. I'm right-wing, pretty far right-wing actually. However, I will make and I will concede to the fact, if you still support, at this moment in time, as I'm speaking to you, Donald Trump, you are anti-American. You are anti-American, and whether you know it or not, you are a beneficiary of Israel. Or rather, Israel is a beneficiary of your rhetoric by saying Donald Trump is the best to ever do it and we needed to start this war. You're serving their interests, whether you like it or not, whether it's intentional or not. Anybody who goes up on a podcast, anybody who grabs a mic like I'm speaking to you through one right now and says Donald Trump is, insert some sort of positive line of rhetoric or anything like that, is anti-American. They don't understand how this war is detrimental to the American people, as well as the global economy and the global community. And all these countries in the Middle East that we use as buffer states will no longer allow us to use them as buffer states because we have now posed a risky insurance policy. And this is the problem. Israel, it starts with Israel. They're a moral hazard. You know, people say, oh, you got the Israel problem. You're talking about Israel too much. But that's where it all stems from, actually. You know, we are Israel's insurance policy. And they keep crashing the fucking car. And the insurance is like $1 million a month now. They are a moral hazard. They start problems they can't finish. And we always have to go over to aisle 5 and clean it the fuck up. And it's about time now that it's actually reached the Gulf states. And they're feeling this. And now there's some rumors circulating. And I've seen this on X and on the New York Times and other articles like that. That there are officials within these Gulf countries that are fed up with the United States. And is that really a rumor? I mean, you got to think about, is that really a rumor or is that just common sense now? I mean, which other way would this fall? You got military bases in your country supplied and paid for by the United States. And the whole crux of it is that it's going to militarily protect your country, your airspace, so on and so forth. And it hasn't done any of that ever since this war started 101 days ago. And so after this is all said and done with, which at this point, God knows when this will be said and done with, will these Gulf countries turn to the United States for military protection anymore? And you got to think about it. That's one of our biggest leverage points when it comes to having influence in any of these countries that are not strong. And they create a buffer state as a result for us, or they're created as a buffer state as a result for us. And so all these countries in NATO and all these countries in the GCC will now see the United States does not have the capability of deterrence like it once did. We're striking Iran, launching bombing campaigns, threatening to send them back to the Stone Age. What has it done? It's done nothing. The IRGC are sitting back with their feet kicked up and their hands behind their head like this, not worried about a thing. They kill one leader, the next guy steps up, and there's some autonomous response from the military to bomb the next 9 countries. It's absolutely ridiculous. And today I saw the news, and obviously I saw it last night when it first broke out, and you just start to get frustrated with this stuff. I don't want to talk about Iran anymore. You know, I started this channel talking about Iran, and it was a hot topic, and so I was giving you guys the spill and what I thought and all this good stuff, but I'm sick and tired of talking about Iran, but I'm left with no choice because it seems to be the main story in the news every single day because the conflict doesn't get any better, and Donald Trump keeps lying. One moment is, we're around the corner, don't worry, a deal's on the way, they're scared. And then the Iranian officials release a statement saying, we're not talking to anybody. And until hands are off Lebanon, you release our frozen assets, you give us the Strait, we make money off the Strait, and you promise to never militarily attack us again, and you remove your bases from the Gulf, then and only then will we talk to you about a permanent ceasefire or a peace deal. And it's like, who actually won there? Who won? You tell me who won. Who won? And what does this do for the United States for the foreseeable future? Well, we look like a weak bitch-ass country now. We just effectively strategically lost a 101-day conflict still ongoing to a fourth or, a middle power in the world, that being Iran, not even a nuclear power. The United States is struggling to subdue a non-nuclear country. Really think about how this will sit in the future. We look back at Iraq like, wow, that was such a mistake. Look at this. Imagine how this will be spoken about. Everybody shits on Bush. Oh, they're going to have a field day with Donald Trump in the next 2 decades. I bet you that. I bet you that. All the insider trading, all the bullshit with the executive order in January 2025. We'll see what happens with him in the future. His legacy is done for. So let him enjoy the Knicks game. Let Donald Trump enjoy the Knicks game while he's there. And you know what? He's getting booed at the Knicks game. And I always say, I'm not a leftist. I'm not a progressive at all. Again, like I said, I don't like to do the left and right thing too much. I understand there is a slop to it, but I am right wing. I am conservative. For that matter, I am. And so when I attack Trump, I get grouped in with the left, and it's like, no, but that's like, I don't agree with you either. But you know what? He got booed at MSG. Fuck him. Fuck him. Good. Good. Honestly, lovely. Let's enjoy this clip together. You want to bomb Iran? You want to bomb Iran? You want to be buddy-buddy with Epstein? You want to get all your insider traders pardoned? You, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth acting like the big bad boss, huh? All right, well, now we know no one likes you. Now we know no one is favorable towards you. So, it is what it is. So that was the national anthem being played at tonight's finals game in New York City at Madison Square Garden, Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Whose brush shines and bright stars through the perilous fights. And that's right now. That's the finals game. I don't know if anybody's actually watching the finals because a lot of you guys are in here early. So shout out to you. Like the video if you haven't already. I had to go off because I'm just I was already annoyed with the news, and then I see Trump just hanging out at the finals game, and it's like, why are you there? Why are you there? Don't you got a country to run? Don't you got a region to save? Mr. No New Wars. And if you're not fed up, you're honestly part of the problem. If you're not fed up, you're likely part of the problem. I mean, when are you going to put your foot down and draw the line in the sand and say, I'm no longer a part of this bullshit? It's bullshit. So, that's that. Starting the show a little hot, but it's like, bro. Anyways, let's see. Let's see what we have here. Had a couple chats, and I will read this article by New York Times. We will look into Reum's page, and it'll be a decently long stream, maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours. It won't be too short, too long. We'll see how it goes. Mr. Ferdinand says, W Ryad, Knicks up 7 at the half. Thank you so much, my friend. Always supporting. Go Knicks. Starboy says, let's talk more about Iran. Trump is very honest. Let's talk more. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but thank you for the super chat. Yeah, stream on a Monday. Crazy, huh? Someone just said that in the chat. Crazy. But it's like, are you not tired, And I was watching the Tim Pool clip the other day. I've been cortisol spiking a little bit more than usual. I haven't been myself. But, I'm watching Tim Pool and my brother argue, and Tim Pool says, and I guess this is like a talking point from the MAGA base, from the MAGA shills. Tim Pool says, well, don't worry. Yeah, actually, Trump is intentionally blocking the Strait of Hormuz. It's 5D chess so that China doesn't get oil. And I'm sitting here contemplating whether I want to run my fist through my monitor. What are you talking about? Are we on Earth? Are we on Earth? I think we're on Mars, actually. I don't think he's on Earth. And I like Tim Pool, but it's like, okay. You know, I get it. Maybe he's got some White House connection. I don't know. Like, I get it. I'm not telling everybody to shit on Trump, and that's not what I'm saying. And he's the president, so, like, let's not actually kill him. Not like that, but, like, you know, kill him with rhetoric. You know, he's the president. Let's not attack him too much. Then I just spazzed on him. But, like, bro, you gotta call it what it is. This is wrong. This is a bad idea. How many people have jumped off of this sinking Trump train or sinking Trump ship? How many people have jumped off? How many people have left the ship? You know? Obviously, you got Joe Kent, Tulsi Gabbard, all the others. He lost a lot of popularity unseating Thomas Massie. So, you know, the guy is just, he's really been unbelievable. Talking about Joe Kent's wife while he's supporting you. Like, what is your problem? So, anyways, let's read this article. And then we'll go into Reum's updates. And, I mean, it's just not good news. Iran has the upper hand here. You got to think about it. The fact that they had the wits and the guts to start this war back up again, like really make it hot, says more than anybody can ever explain, really, to be honest. So, and now the Red Sea might get clogged up. Not a good situation whatsoever. And Trump is hanging out with Stephen Witkoff at MSG. Like, all right. So anyways, here's the latest from New York Times. This was as of an hour ago. So hopefully this clears out a nice clear picture. Paints a nice clear picture. Let's see if that's on screen. All right. Here's the latest. President Trump called Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday morning and persuaded him to halt further military strikes against Iran, telling him that Washington and Tehran were within days of a breakthrough, clearing the way for talks on a long-term nuclear deal. The call came after tit-for-tat strikes had briefly jeopardized a 2-month ceasefire and brought the Middle East back to the principle of full-blown war. Mr. Trump has repeatedly said that the United States and Iran were drawing near an agreement and that would bring the sides back to the table for long-term negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. And by the way, that's not true. He was lying. And it is not clear that they are actually any closer at the moment. But the situation became more complicated when Iran and Israel traded fire over the last 2 days. The rapid escalation began on Sunday with Israeli strikes just outside of the Lebanese capital, Beirut, which the Israeli military said the Iran-backed militia Hezbollah targeted the Iran-backed militia Hezbollah, or, you know, they say it's a stronghold. Iran then sent a wave of ballistic missiles towards Israel. The Israeli military said on Monday morning that it had launched 2 waves of airstrikes across Iran, including against the country's largest petrochemical complex, prompting further Iranian missile attacks on central Israel. In a recorded message issued after his call on Monday with Mr. Trump, Mr. Netanyahu said that Israel's fire is on hold against Iran. Iran's military said that it was ceasing its attacks for now, according to remarks broadcast by Iranian state television on Monday afternoon. But both Iran and Israel were warned that they were ready to resume strikes at a moment's notice. In Mr. Netanyahu's statement, his first public comments in 20 hours since Iran began firing missiles at Israel, he said that Iran had tried to force a new equation by attacking Israel in retaliation for its attacks in Lebanon. This equation is unbearable, unacceptable to me. Here's what else to know. Casualties. The latest Iranian attacks caused no casualties in Israel. According to the local authorities, Iran's emergency services said that the strikes had injured 15 people, one of whom remained hospitalized, according to a statement carried by state media that offered few other details. In regards to the energy markets, the price of oil jumped after Israel and Iran exchanged strikes, but pared back much of those gains. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, rose more than 1% to about $94 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude, the U.S. marker, was up around 91. The Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen fired a ballistic missile at central Israel on Monday and announced a naval blockade against Israel in the Red Sea, but it was unclear that the threat would mean in practice. Earlier, Houthi attacks in the Red Sea snarled a global shipping and prompted a U.S.-led bombing campaign. In Israeli politics, for Mr. Netanyahu, a resumption of fighting with Iran may offer some short-term advantages at home, though it could further inflame. Let's see if we can get that back up. Anyways, we knew where that was going to go. That's fine. I lost the rest of the article. But let's go over to Reum right here and get a recap of the last 18 hours, which I largely just explained to you, but we'll do it anyways. So this here reads, on June 2nd, like I had told you, the IRGC Guard Corps, or the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, warned Israel that if it were to bomb Beirut, Lebanon, they would carry out retaliatory strikes on Israel in response. 5 days later, on the 7th, which was yesterday, so that's Sunday, Israel carried out a small strike on Dahia, which triggered a response from the axis of resistance, including 20 ballistic missiles from Iran, 2 ballistic missiles, and several drones from Yemen. So you got to think about this. Israel got hit from all proxy groups and Iran at the same time. Brutal. That is brutal, Chief. You know? So talk about 1 against 10, huh? Anyways, Israel has denied U.S. involvement in the offensive, but the operations were done in coordination. In chronological order, the annotations link to our original posts, and then this goes on to tell you all the details of what's been happening. Last night in Israel, Iran launched 6 waves of ballistic missiles at northern and central Israel. 1 impact was recorded with unknown effect. 7 hours after the Iranian attacks, Israel would begin the first wave of its strikes on Iran across several targets around the country. The IDF stated that they were targeting 9 air defense systems. Mehrabad International Airport, the main airport in Iran. This airport is now closed until further notice. A drone factory and a ballistic missiles depot, the headquarters of an IRGC unit. Explosions were heard in Tehran, Tabriz, Karaj, and Kermanshah, and Isfahan. Shortly after, several assumed Houthi drones, Iran denied involvement by the way, were launched at Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia, an air base housing U.S. troops, which by the way, this was previously struck right before the ceasefire, and Iran had destroyed critical military infrastructure belonging to the United States that helped out with radar systems. Let's continue on here. Iran launched a second set of attacks targeting central Israel, this time with 3 waves. This wave would have 1 impact, some damage to 3 houses, and no casualties. In a second set of attacks on Iran, Israel would then attack the Mashahar petrochemical complex, a gas facility responsible for 28% of Iran's petrochemical products. This facility was previously struck on April 4th by Israel. Notably, after the 4th of April strikes on the Mashahar petrochemical plant, 3 days later, Iran threatened the entire region will plunge into darkness in the event of a serious attacks on their energy infrastructure. And this was, I believe, around the same time Trump was making that threat as well. The Houthis would announce that the Red Sea would be blockaded against all Israeli-linked vessels due to Israel's offensive in Iran, Gaza, and Lebanon. A third set of approximately 4 missiles would be launched by Iran at Israel. A series of explosions would then be heard over many locations across Iran, which Israel would deny any involvement in, although it was clearly a military operation as drones were spotted and shot down near Tehran. Explosions were heard in Tehran, Isfahan, Kermanshah, Shahar al-Ray, Hamadan, and Karaj. Both sides announced the cessation of attacks, Iran and Israel, with Iran clearly stating that any attacks on Lebanon, including southern Lebanon, would restart or reignite the conflict. Get this, Israel would strike Lebanon 20 minutes later, and a second time 10 minutes later after that statement was released. So, we're back at war pretty much. This war has started back up, and look, there is a hesitancy from Donald Trump to really try and step in. Oh, here's a better video of the booing from Sneeko, actually. Where is he? There he is. Yeah. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But anyways, let's watch some news, shall we? And some of my clips, yo, so for all of you in here, and sorry, I don't mean a cortisol spike at the beginning of the stream, but it's like, brother. You know, I'm really sick and tired. When I saw him at the Knicks game, that was my 13th reason. Seriously. Like, being at the Knicks game was my 13th reason. Like, how unprofessional. We're at war. we're at war, and you decide now is a good time. And I get it. He wants to show strength and prosperity and that he's fine. But it's like, you know, it's just the timing it couldn't be any more painful. And, you know, I've always said, like, it's whatever. It's whatever. We'll get into it in a moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Al Jazeera's got going on here. Like the video if you haven't. And guys, if you have not already, please go check out the Instagram clips page. That's going to be Ryad Pilled, Ryadpilled. For those of you listening, you remember later. Pretty good name, actually. I came up with it. I think I came up with it. There was somebody else come up with it. But here's a clips page. Some of these have been popping off. We're cooking now. We're cooking. Okay. Some of these have been popping off. Okay. Shout out Brett. This one's got 48K here. This is me reacting to Myron protecting the girl like Superman.
Oh my god! What the fuck?
Batman shit, you know what I'm saying? Myron hates women. You're so yeah, that's that. I don't want to get copyright from that song, so that's why I stopped the clip. But yeah, bunch of clips here. So if you don't have time to always catch the streams, check this out. All right. And my personal Instagram is linked here as well, but the clips page is where you can really help out. Appreciate all the love, guys. So yeah, but let's see what we got going on for the live news here, because, you know, say what you will, and I'm sure a lot of people are watching the Knicks game right now, but, you know, you could bet that I don't know if this is really going to diffuse like Iran said it would, and the cessation of strikes will really last. You know, it's really a matter of time until things start back up again. And this is what you have to really understand. Israel now has the iron super hot. They got to keep striking. For Israel, it makes no sense to pause and take a breath and then resume strikes. And it's like they got to keep everything rolling forward. Momentum, momentum, momentum. You got to go inside their minds and understand their strategy. They've made tons of progress in southern Lebanon, and that's why Iran had issued those threats. Iran is telling them, hey, listen, no more strikes on Lebanon, and Israel has not been listening. And as a result, they've seized so much land, more than they actually have seized in a good amount of time. Here, we can actually watch this video so it can break it down for you, but everything south of the Litani River now has become this buffer zone, and maybe you don't know the geography or anything, so this video will explain it better than I can, because you'll be able to see the visuals. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you guys. This is kind of the situation in Lebanon, and this is as of like 3 or 4 days ago. You know, this isn't even super fresh, and this is what it was 3 or 4 days ago. Let's see if I can find this here.
20% of Lebanon is now under Israeli occupation, a fifth of the entire country controlled by an invading power. How did this happen? Well, war broke out between Israel and Hezbollah in October 2023, and after a year of cross-border shelling and attacks, Israeli troops invaded. A ceasefire agreement came into effect in November 2024, which was meant to see Israeli troops withdraw and Hezbollah fighters move north of the Litani River. But Israel said Hezbollah had not fully moved back, so Israel's military kept demolishing entire villages in southern Lebanon, causing massive displacement. Then, in March this year, things really intensified. An Israeli-US strike killed Iran's supreme leader, and Hezbollah struck Israel in retaliation. Then Israel began intense strikes, and in April established a yellow line asserting a so-called security zone, 10 kilometers deep into Lebanon. Now, Israeli forces have crossed the Litani River and seized territory to the north. For the first time since 2006, troops captured the historic Beaufort Castle on a mountain overlooking southern Lebanon. Israeli forces previously...
And if you guys aren't familiar with the Beaufort Castle, let me go ahead and pull it up. It's actually spelled like Beaufort, but I believe the pronunciation is Beaufort. Anyways, so... you know, I'm going Myron style right here, pulling up the Wikipedia. Love it. So this is Beaufort Castle, and this is a historic site. Actually, it may explain it here. Let's see. Let's see if we can get a good explanation here. But it's a historic site of resistance, and where the IDF had control up until recent history, and they pulled out in 2000. And it's located just north of the Litani River, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, so just north of the Litani River right here, if you can see that on the map. And this has always been kind of like a red zone for Israel, and they've penetrated all of this. And this came out in the news like a week ago. We reported on it. And so, again, we're seeing historic changes in the landscape of this conflict. And this has been a forever conflict between Lebanon and Israel. But now it's taking a new face. It's shaping a little bit differently than it ever has. And, of course, that's why Iran decided to strike Israel. Make no mistake, okay? Iran struck Israel as well as the proxy groups because Israel is not actually agreeing to the demands or conceding to any of the demands that Iran has, which are pretty light demands like, hey, don't attack Lebanon, which is not even directly involved in this conflict necessarily. I get it, Hezbollah, the rockets in the north, but that has ceased for the large part ever since the ceasefire. But look at that vein, oh my goodness. But this is also coming as a concern for Iran. You got to think about it. Israel is now seizing more land than they have had in a while. Iran's red lines are now becoming crossed at a level that they weren't even prior to the conflict. And so there is a unanimous set of panic that has now trickled into the IRGC to where they actually have to do something. And that's what it is. If anybody's paying attention, you know the writing is right on the wall. But of course, a lot of people let this fly over their heads. Israel is quietly but surely campaigning to really annex the hell out of this south part of the country. And Iran sees it. They're no stranger to this strategy. They're no stranger to Israel's methods and their goals. And so they're nipping it in the bud. And the best way to nip that in the bud is to actually strike them at this moment right now. That's from the Iranian perspective. I'm not condoning the strikes. So that's maybe part of the reason as well, is just not even the fact that like, oh, you're hurting the Lebanese people and this like virtue signaling response. I don't think it's that. I think it's more of like, hey, they're taking too much territory. We're about to lose a lot of advantage with one of our proxy groups that keeps Israel at bay. So that's a big part of it as well, which is why they likely struck yesterday, as well as everything else.
Obviously held it from 1982 until they withdrew 18 years later.
הוא שלב דרמטי, הוא שינוי דרמטי במדיניות שאנחנו מובילים.
So this is Netanyahu speaking
later.
Hebrew.
הוא שלב
If you're listening, he says the capture of the Beaufort Castle is a dramatic stage.
Okay.
Okay. He says it's a dramatic stage, a dramatic shift in the policy that we are leading. We have broken the barrier of fear and we are taking the initiative. We are operating on all fronts in Syria, Gaza, and Lebanon. Continues on. The video starts back up. Sorry.
This is on the outskirts of Nabatea, which is Lebanon's fifth largest city. It's a key economic and cultural hub for the region. It's viewed by many Lebanese as a symbol of resistance due to its historic role on the front line of Israeli assaults. Israel's military is now issuing forced displacement orders for areas around the Zahrani River, around 40 kilometers north of Israel's border. Again, without providing evidence saying Hezbollah uses these areas to carry out operations against Israel. And at this point, it seems hard to know where it will end.
So, a little bit of the situation as to what's been happening ever since March. So yeah, this is an aggressive offensive by Israel. And that's why we see the developments that we're seeing.
The U.S. President Donald Trump has told U.S. media outlet Axios that he warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that Israel may be fighting alone if he goes back to war with Iran. Axios quoted Trump as saying, "Bibi, you better be careful or you will be on your own very soon." But both Iran and Israel say that they have paused attacks against one another after they launched a series of strikes. It was the most serious escalation.
And we can read that article very quickly as well. So behind the scenes, how Israel and Iran nearly pulled Trump back to war. Funny enough, huh? Look what you started. The past 24 hours underscored the risk of the United States once again becoming ensnared in major combat operations in the Middle East, despite President Trump clearly wanting out. On Monday, Trump nudged Israel and Iran back from the brink, but it's unclear for how long. Why this matters, 100 days into the conflict, Trump still has not secured an elusive deal to end the war and spent the last 24 hours scrambling to avoid its full-scale resumption. Trump found himself in a dilemma. On the one hand, he understood it would be nearly impossible for his key ally Benjamin Netanyahu to let an Iranian missile attack go unanswered. On the other hand, he was concerned the tit-for-tat would lead to an all-out war. Translation: Israel would start getting fucked up with ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles and drones, and Trump would inevitably have to step back in and start the war back up, and then oil in the Strait of Hormuz would be more cooked than it ever was since February and March. Trump told Axios in a phone interview that he'd warned the Israeli prime minister if he went back to war with Iran, he might find himself fighting alone. Highly doubt that, because the United States was already involved in some strikes. And you got to realize, too, even if the U.S. isn't involved in strikes, who's going to believe they're not? They started the war with Israel. And on top of that, it's advantageous for Israel to lie and say that the United States is involved, and so that they can inadvertently drag them in. You know? If Israeli media says the U.S. and Israel struck Iran, even if the U.S. did or didn't and how deeply they involved was or their embedment was in the attack, it does the trick because it sends the message to the global community as well as the countries that are at the receiving end of these attacks that the U.S. is attacking them. So at every chance Israel gets, they're always going to make the claim that the United States is doing the strikes with them. But I mean, again, there's no surprise there because we started this war with them. So anyways, it continues on. The escalation started on Sunday morning when Israel struck a Hezbollah target in Beirut. An Israeli source said the IDF forces, or Israeli Defense Forces, notified CENTCOM ahead of the strike in Beirut, but not the White House. A U.S. official said Trump, who pulled the brakes on a similar planned Israeli attack during a tense call days earlier, was unhappy about the strike. Iran then launched missiles towards Israel. It had vowed to do so if Israel struck the Lebanese capital. Some in the IDF believed that it was an empty threat. Yeah, wrong to think that. From that point, things escalated quickly. Trump called Netanyahu on Sunday evening and asked him not to retaliate. Trump argued that he would either get a deal with Iran in the next few days that would make the strikes unnecessary, LOL, or he wouldn't, in which case he might lead the strikes on Iran, an Israeli source briefed on the call said. You know, I can keep reading this. It's just like, look at Trump now scrambling. Let me make sure I'm careful with my wording here. It's almost in a way, don't misconstrue what I'm saying, seriously. It's almost in a way satisfying to see Donald Trump like panicking. Not because the U.S. is in danger, but because he made such a bad decision. And now and only now does it maybe, we don't know, Axios is weird, Barack Ravid is weird. We know we have to be careful with how we receive our news there. But it does seem, because U.S. involvement has really been minimal in these last tit-for-tat set of strikes, it does seem that Donald Trump is slightly regretful of his decision on February 28th. Would I be crazy to say that? I don't think I would. And the reason is because he has realized this is not a 3 to 5 day conflict. It is 100 days in. And Iran still has their missiles, likely replenished to full capacity. And where they were before the conflict started, God knows even more. As well as their drone capacity, and where's their enriched uranium at, and what are they doing with it? Because we've given them 40 or 50 days now at this point to kind of gather everything together, recoup, take a breath from our offensive bombing campaign, spanning from the beginning of March all the way up until April 7th, when the ceasefire was officially agreed upon between all the parties, at least in some sense, because then Israel started ramping up on Lebanon. But one has to really think like, you know, Trump is panicking. And it's just funny that he's going to the game right now because there's just a hot conflict in the Middle East that's one more missile strike or drone away from starting back up and going back to where it was in March when you were involved. And the reason why Israel can survive all of these attacks from Iran is due to U.S. involvement. We are their most safe insurance policy. And if that's not there, well, it's a different story for Israel. But Donald Trump, do not think for a second, and if I'm wrong on this, let's pop a bottle of champagne because I'd be happy to be wrong on this. But do not think for a second that Donald Trump is going to allow Israel to be subject to Iranian strikes without supporting them. With U.S. interceptors, with offensive strikes on Iran, targeting their military infrastructure, maybe even their energy infrastructure, their bridges, like he had said. But I mean, really think about Donald Trump. Is he now starting to realize that all of the support that he was receiving from the Israeli lobby went nowhere for him? I think he is. Remember how this all started, not to draw it back to the beginning, but he pulled out of the JCPOA, he destroyed the Iranian nuclear deal, and that really set the ladder for him to eventually get to war with Iran. And anybody who has any sort of political ability would have told you that Trump may actually start a war with Iran. This is what a lot of people had been saying since he pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal, but ever since 2020, 2021, and so on, people were worried because he was always making these statements about Iran. And then J.D. Vance kind of joined the cause, saying that Iran needs to be hit or Iran needs to be decapitated at the RNC, I believe. And so there's this been growing idea that Iran will eventually be subject to U.S. aggression. How that would look, we didn't know. Obviously, we started with the sanctions, and then it moved to killing their leaders. Qasem Soleimani, you have Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, actually. And that was in November of 2024, Qasem Soleimani being in 2020. And so, you think about all of these moving pieces and how we've slowly been approaching the point of war, but it finally seems that Trump really, really knows he made a bad idea. And to that, I say there is some satisfaction there. Not the deepest, greatest satisfaction, because what does that do for us? But it's a little satisfying to see him allegedly panicking, because that's the only thing that Washington would be doing right now if anybody had sense and were to predict what's going on inside the White Room, or the White House, is there's likely panic. And it's because they've started a conflict that they cannot put a lid on. And look, can we just pull out right now and call it a day? And Tim Pool and my brother were talking about this. And the answer is, of course we can, but that would be the biggest L ever. And of course, not only for Trump and him being a narcissistic egomaniac, but really for the ability of the United States displaying deterrence for the foreseeable future. Pulling out right now would actually be catastrophic. Because think about it. We started a war with Iran. We did nothing of what we said we would do. We said we'd get regime change. Oh, we got regime change. We got a worse regime with a more extreme leader. They built up their missile stockpile back to where it was. We have not halted the enrichment of the uranium. At least we don't think we have. There's no ongoing deal. We've imposed sanctions, so all bets are off. If they want to continue enriching to 90%, they're probably going to do so. And we haven't done anything except clog up the Strait of Hormuz, which is responsible for 20% of the world's global oil supply. And so, you think about all of this. If the United States pulls out with all of these facts existing simultaneously, in which they currently do as I speak to you now, it's an L. It's a strategic L. It is even a military L. I mean, our military bases have largely been unoperational for the beginning of the war and now are being repaired, but they all got hit really hard, as well as critical infrastructure in the Gulf, a desalination plant in Kuwait, which is responsible for converting water from ocean water to fresh drinking water, which is important because the Gulf is a desert. Not much agriculture exists there. And so, all of these things exist. The U.S. just can't pull out. And that's more than obvious. I don't think I have to explain that, but a lot of MAGA shills really don't get this because they're sub 100 IQ. So you got to lay this out very simply for them. But I mean, Trump has made the United States an Israeli stronghold. He has made the United States Israel. Back in January of 2025, he signs an executive order. And in that executive order, there's this idea to fight anti-Semitism. And so any person with a visa who says free Palestine and Israel's a terrorist state and there's a genocide going on in Gaza will likely be deported. Donald Trump bolsters up all of these think tanks and all these other different organizations. The ADL now coined the fact that if you ever were to utter the statement, Israel dragged the United States into war with Iran, you say that it's anti-Semitic. And so think about the strength and the power, the resiliency, the confidence, the arrogance that the Israeli lobby has developed with Donald Trump spearheading or really Trojan horsing their ideology forward. They're getting everything they need right now. And they're also planting the seeds so that when good goy Trump is gone, they still have a semblance of control with Section 224 and all these other things. And Trump has been instrumental in helping them out. It's like everything that he does is just in favor of Israel. And people say, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, he also had halted some sort of UN funding for Palestinian refugees and aid. What's the point of that? They just got genocided and blockaded and starved for months, maybe even 2 years straight. He sanctioned the ICC for wanting Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal. He's done everything for them. So at this point, really, it's like they beat the shit out of Trump, got everything they wanted out of him, and just threw the towel at him and said, clean yourself up. And now he's in the stage where, he realized he actually got used, and maybe he's just wiping himself off with the towel after Israel did what they needed to do with him. Not to be super weird or sexual, but it's just that's what he is. He is their bitch. And people think that this is like crazy conspiratorial rhetoric. It's like, hey, no, I'm like giving you facts. Like, and also I didn't even mention he started a war with Iran. And so now there is this idea, and look, it's probably BS, right? But there's this idea coming out of Axios like, oh, Trump is giving Netanyahu the business. It's like, fuck off, really? And if he is, good, let him panic. And if he isn't, see in midterms, he's cooked, right? So Congress will largely flip. House of Representatives will largely change. Maybe even the Senate will largely change. Even the Republicans in the Senate have now been against this war increasingly as time has gone on. It went from a 4 to 6 week conflict and a 3 to 4 day conflict to now 100 days. And I said back in March, somebody could find the clip. I said, I think this will last into the summer, well into the summer. And people were like, Ryad, that's a little far, man. Would you look at this? It's June 8th currently. Gorgeous outside. The NBA Finals are on. Matter of fact, Game 3 of the NBA Finals are currently happening, and Donald Trump is sitting somewhere up in the stands enjoying the game, while Iran and Israel are banging it out in the Middle East. And anybody with a brain would have seen this coming. You don't start a war with Iran and have it end in a month or a few days. Persia has never been conquered for a reason. They have a geostrategic advantageous position. They are fortified by mountains. They have a capable military. They have decent intelligence, and they have intelligence and military support likely from China and Russia even. And so, it's like, oh, we put sanctions on them. They found ways to work around that. The same way China found ways to work around the fact that Iran may be struck as a result of Israel dragging the United States into the Middle East. And this is another thing, too, to kind of debunk the whole idea that it's 5D chess to block the Strait of Hormuz, this idea coming from Tim Pool and others. Do you not think, political commentators in the United States were predicting that Trump would maybe start a war with Iran. That was like always the idea. Trump would start a war with Iran. He would do it. He would be the president to finally do the deed for Israel and strike the stronghold of the axis of resistance, the last leg standing against Israel, encroaching upon every border in the Middle East and taking it for their own. Trump would enact the policy to allow them to reach their goal. Trump would do it. China obviously knew this. China watched Trump pull out of the JCPOA, in which they applauded, alongside Russia and several other countries, were very happy about the Iranian nuclear deal in the JCPOA administered by Barack Obama. Matter of fact, I can list the countries off for you. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but the original pact was reached between Iran, the P5+1, the US, UK, France, Russia, China, plus Germany, and the EU. We're all on board with the JCPOA. Everybody loved it. And so China, being a part of this deal, wanting it to happen, could see from a mile away in 2016 in May 8th of 2016, or is it 2016? 2018, May 8th. Somebody fact check that. Donald Trump pulls out of the JCPOA, and obviously Chinese intelligence says, all right, this is going to be the guy to give Israel what they want. And so to think that they haven't been preparing for some sort of oil shortage from that region of the world is asinine. So when somebody says, oh, China, less oil, China, less oil. China knew Trump was going to hit Iran, dummy. They knew it. Russia knew it. You thought you and I knew it? They knew it better than we did. Who knows what kind of spying they're doing? Who knows what kind of intelligence they had? They knew it was coming. Now, did they know that it was coming exactly at February 28th at around 10 a.m. Eastern time and all this stuff, or 10 a.m. Iran time, or like middle of the night here in New York City? No, they probably didn't know that. But they knew it was eventually going to happen, and so I'm sure that they had some sort of back-end plan set up, and so that if Gulf oil isn't coming through, they have a way to replace that or mitigate the problem or remedy it for an extended period of time, knowing it would be a long war, just like any war in the Gulf region always is. It's always a war of attrition with Iraq, with Syria, so on and so forth. So Iran saw it coming, Oh, but they don't got oil. They were probably prepping to have an oil shortage, if that even matters, because they don't run on oil. I think 60% of their GDP is driven by services anyways, acting like they're this energy-hungry country that needs energy to survive and energy only. They're not the Gulf. So, just silly cope from the MAGA shill base. And increasingly it becomes more and more frustrating. But anyways, let's get back to this Al Jazeera video. I think I had a chat, so let me go ahead and read this. William R. says, motherfuckers can't breathe without getting called an anti-Semite. Yeah, it's crazy work, bro. It's like nuts. Thank you for the super chat. It's like nuts, but this is Trump's America. This is Trump's America. So do what you will about it. People say you always blame the president. Yeah, actually. Yeah, I'm going to blame the president. You could go ahead and blame whoever you want. I'm going to blame the guy who's responsible for the wars that the United States is involved in that has a direct effect on our economy, and who signs executive orders right into his presidency to go after anybody who speaks critically about Israel, because that's effectively what he did. Yeah, actually, I am going to speak about that. So go ahead and Cole Parter, buddy. Let's see. I had this clip, by the way, before we get back to Al Jazeera. I had this clip of the Lebanese president. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Holy cuck. Holy cuck. Let's take a look at this real quick. The comments. This is Lebanese president. This is the comments right here. Yo, I'm dead. So this is Joseph Aoun, who is the current president of Lebanon. Let's see what he said here about the conflict with Hezbollah, Southern Lebanon, and the IRGC.
It's not your country. It's our country. It's our obligation. It's not your job to interfere into our country. I reject this statement totally, because our people being killed, our houses being destroyed. They are using Lebanon as a bargaining chip in their negotiation with the United States. It's unacceptable.
They are.
And here also, Hezbollah must understand that. Hezbollah must understand that no other way but to sit and talk. No other way to solve this problem and to save what's left.
Okay, so fine. Iran can't use southern Lebanon as a bargaining chip for the United States to effectuate eventual long-term peace. Let's just have Hezbollah leave southern Lebanon then. Lebanon will become Israel in 2 days. Bet you money. Bet you money if Hezbollah does not exist in Lebanon, Lebanon will become Israel in the matter of 2 to 3 days. 24, 48, at the most 72 hours I give it. 3 days. So, I mean, be a little bit more grateful, right? And I get it, right? Hezbollah does put a big red target on southern Lebanon, and as a result, Christians are killed, which a lot of southern Lebanon is comprised of Christians. These Christian villages are displaced. It's horrible. And look, I'm not a Hezbollah supporter. Hezbollah is a Shiite militant group, and they had a large hand in killing Sunnis in Syria. And, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I can recognize the greatest enemy right now. I can recognize the greatest issue in the region right now, which is we all know who. So, you know, be a little more grateful, okay? Because, yeah, whatever, condemn Hezbollah and say all of this. Ultimately, without Hezbollah, for better or worse, Israel would take over southern Lebanon. Because here's a critical mistake that he's making, and here's the thing that he's missing. Israel is not attacking southern Lebanon because Hezbollah, that's part of the reason, and front-facingly, that's what they can put in front of you to make you think that's why they're attacking. But really, it's because they want southern Lebanon. They want it for themselves, and eventually all of Lebanon. Not to be a conspiracy theorist, this is what is on the patches of some IDF soldiers' uniforms. It's Greater Israel. They want that land for themselves. They believe it does belong to them. A large majority of them do believe this. Not all of them, but a large majority of them do believe this. And so, whether it's southern Lebanon, and you got to think about in the 80s, why did Hezbollah ever exist? It's because of Israeli aggression. Why did all these resistance groups exist? Why do you think resistance ever exists in the first place? Aggression does breed that resistance that we see. And so to think that it's just because of the fact that Hezbollah's there and that's it is like an asinine, very silly, one-dimensional, two-dimensional way of looking at it. Really, it's a lot more complex than that. And that's the same thing in Gaza, and that's the same thing in West Bank. But Israel wants all of it, make no mistake. And that's also why they're always fighting a multi-front war. They've got to be fighting somebody at some point, partially because of the reason that Benjamin Netanyahu wants to stay in power. He doesn't want any downtime for his presidency or his leadership to be challenged by the corruption trial, but as well as the fact that if Israel is always fighting some sort of opponent in the Middle East, anybody, whoever it is, they have that plausible reason that they are defending themselves and they can be extra aggressive than they would have been prior, which is why they allowed October 7th to happen, even though they had foreknowledge of it happening. Yeah, you heard that right. Egyptian intelligence gave Israel the heads up that Hamas in the Gaza Strip was going to attack on October 7th, as well as the fact that the Israeli-Gaza border, or the border that separates the Gaza Strip, the open-air prison, to what is mainland Israel, is so secure and fortified. There's no way a bunch of guys with AKs and Fortnite gliders are just going to step into Israel and start wreaking havoc without the Mossad, one of the greatest intelligence programs in the world, having any idea it was about to happen. See, and by the way, Charlie Kirk admitted this. Do you know that? Charlie Kirk admitted Israel knew October 7th was going to happen, and they let it happen anyways. And who better to tell you than the big old Christian Zionist himself, Charlie Kirk? Let's talk about it. I'll go ahead and pull up the clip, and then I'll get on with my point.
Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is.
Yeah.
Was there a stand down order?
And there's more.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of, say, stand down. That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard-right government has a mandate. I got to be careful the way I say this. They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep.
Oh, so I just want to make sure everybody heard that right. Did all the traditional conservatives hear that? Did everybody on the left hear that? Did all the centrists hear that? It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy.
I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? And honestly, they have a mandate to go seek justice and revenge. They do. My plead to Israel is be precise, be focused in your retaliation.
If they do overreact, I'm more coming from a place of thinking this was intentional. If they don't...
This was on October 12th, 2023. Patrick Bet David says if they do overreact, in which they did, because they continued to bomb the Gaza Strip and kill children and innocent non-combatants for 26 months straight, so they did overreact. And so, Patrick Bet David, your real stipulation there was if Israel overreacts, well, then it was obviously intentional that October 7th was allowed to happen. I hope you stand on that today. I hope you acknowledge that today, that October 7th was an inside job. I don't know what he says about that. Maybe he says that. So if that's the case, he's consistent. But I hope he's saying that.
overreact, then this wasn't intentional. Meaning, if all of a sudden you see an all-out annihilation...
What do you mean by intentional? That they knew it was going to happen?
That no, when you're asking about the stand down 6 hours and 3 hours, then why did you? What intel are you getting? So we're on the same page.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
No,
All I'm saying
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Sure, go for it.
Look at the cameras, the radars. Patrick, not only did they go in...
That's what I'm saying.
No, but hear me out here. Now,
it is the most fortified strip of land, arguably, in the world. The Gaza Strip. One of the most.
Not only did they go into Israel, they got out of Israel with hostages.
Yeah, 100 hostages.
So you would think...
They're thinking now.
Let me just hear me out. There's a penetration of your border wall, okay? That you guard on a holy day, the 50-year anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. And you would think, hey, they're going to come back. Let's make sure that doesn't happen.
How did these...
And then you pair that with this. Do you know what this is? The Hannibal Directive. Also translated as the Hannibal Procedure or the Hannibal Protocol, is the name of a controversial procedure used by the IDF to prevent the capture of Israeli soldiers by enemy forces. Author A.L. Weizmann described a 2014 Israeli policy stating that the kidnapping must be stopped by all means, even at the price of striking and harming our own forces. It was introduced in 1986 after a number of abductions of IDF soldiers in Lebanon and subsequent controversial prisoner exchanges. The full text of the directive was never published, and until 2003, Israeli military censorship forbade any discussion of the subject in the press. The directive has been changed several times, and in 2016, Gadi Eisenkot ordered the formal revocation of the standing directive and the reformulation of the protocol. The two versions of the Hannibal Directive may have existed, simultaneously at times, a written version accessible only to the upper echelon of the IDF and an oral law version for division commanders and lower levels. In the latter version, by all means, was often interpreted literally as in an IDF soldier was better dead than abducted. And so you think about this and all of the monstrosities that happened on the 7th of October, as well as the fact that it seems like Israel is hell-bent on hostages not being captured because it can be used as leverage against them. And so they don't want them to be captured, and they'll go as far as to even potentially take out their own personnel so they don't have to deal with that burden. And on October 7th, there were plenty of hostages that were taken. And so you think about all these things, this directive that's set in line to prevent that, and maybe that was enacted upon, who knows? And, you know, everything kind of leads to one conclusion. It's very likely that they had foreknowledge of the attack. So, you know, and this goes to what I was saying earlier. Don't worry, I'm not going to lose my train of thought as to what I was originally saying. Israel has to be fighting somebody at some point. And so long as they can administer some false flag, or they can have foreknowledge of an attack and allow it to happen, whatever it is, why would they do that if they want to be a safe, sovereign democracy that just wants a place in the Middle East? It's because they want a good enough reason to destroy the entire Middle East and make it their own, or at least a good portion of it. And we know for sure the Gaza Strip, which they want to turn into a vacation hotspot. They want to turn it into a tourist getaway, an area for investments, because it is an advantageous strip of land right on the water, and they want that. They want that for maritime trade and for tourism and everything else. So, you know, if it's not Lebanon, it's Gaza. If it's not Gaza, it's the West Bank, in which they're going to annex that as well, by the way. And they have not slowed down on their attacks in the West Bank. No siree, they have not. Matter of fact, I think I have a video queued up about a story in the West Bank just the other day. Let's go ahead and take a look.
That's an Israeli soldier taking down a Palestinian man and beating him in the occupied West Bank.
This was one day ago, chat.
Alongside him, a group of Israeli settlers hold down
I don't like it.
once he's identified. But the reality is this isn't an isolated incident, and too often soldiers face no accountability. This Palestinian father is the latest to demand accountability after his 7-month-old son, Sam, was killed by Israeli forces on Friday. He says he was driving in the city of Hebron when Israeli soldiers stopped him. He says he stopped, and then one of the soldiers opened fire.
So he's speaking in Arabic if you're listening. He said the bullet penetrated the front windshield and it went through my hand, of course, and it struck my son. in his face and my wife in the face.
The Israeli military offered a different account, saying soldiers, quote, perceived a vehicle accelerating toward them. It said the incident is under review and expressed, quote, deep sorrow for any harm caused to uninvolved individuals. But this is how Sam's father responded.
اللي صار عندنا مش موضوع اعتذار، اللي صار إنه إحنا أطلقنا نار عن طريق الخطأ.
Caused to uninvolved
so he
individuals.
says, the father responded and he said, it is not a matter of an apology. What happened is not that the shots were fired by mistake and led to this tragedy. An apology in this case would amount of clearing a criminal perpetrator to say it happened by mistake. That I didn't know. You were coming here where that bullet passed through by accident? No way. There is no such thing as by mistake in this case. So they definitely botched that translation. I should have just listened to it myself, but it's fine. We understand the message. So, yeah, I mean, you know, not to go too pro-Palestine here, because that's not the situation. Of course, we're pro-Palestine, is free Palestine, but, you know, we're talking about the strikes in Iran. But all of this is important for you to understand, you know, and this is what Trump campaigned on. Trump said this would be over in one day. He said he'd have the Gaza conflict over right away. He said there'd be no new wars. Matter of fact, he walked out of an interview because he was pressed about that campaign promise. Let's go ahead and watch that as well. He was pressed about his empty campaign promises, and he walked out of an interview. Stormed out like a big baby.
The war in Iran was from President Donald Trump. But as the interview went on, the president walked out when Welker challenged him about his claims about fixed elections.
Yeah, not sweet shit when you don't got Fox News softballing you dumbass questions, huh, Mr. President?
The election was rigged. It was a dirty eletion.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in
never
California.
Presented evidence
it's happening
that the
right now in
election was
California.
rigged.
Right now, it's look at what's
Where's
happening in
the evidence
California.
to that?
It's
the
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California. It's no, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days. And they aren't even close to coming up with it.
That's how they count
You know
the
why
votes
they're doing
in
that?
California.
Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
all
that?
I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen. And I listen to people. And let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
Let's
Well,
continue.
you play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please.
Okay.
I traveled all.
Thank you, darling. Did he drop the mic? Okay, kind of based.
Traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to.
Let's watch the full thing. Cause I'm like low-key not against Trump right now. Okay, I'm not. We're mad at Trump. We don't like Donald Trump, but like, bro, okay, it's like, okay, he's gotta be in base right now. No, but I know that she asked about the wars and stuff and all that, and so yeah. Shout out to all of you guys who are watching. By the way, we've got about a little bit north of 800 people in here. If you're in here, please like the video. It helps tremendously. I know a lot of you may be skipping out on the NBA Finals, or maybe you just don't watch overall. You know, I enjoy a little bit of basketball, a little goy ball every once in a while, so I don't blame you if you're watching. It's a good series, I must admit, and I know my parents are probably watching that as well, so not a worry whatsoever if, you know, you chose that over this. But if you're here, shout out to you. Really appreciate it. Like the video, show the support. Again, gotta plug in the. I'm really bad at like plugging in like my pages and stuff and my socials, but we have a little bit more viewership in here. Go ahead and follow the clips page on Instagram. That's Ryad Pilled if you have not already. Lots of good clips on here. Some of these are kind of going viral. Some of them doing pretty well. So if you can show support there, give that a follow. That'd be awesome. That's Ryad Pilled, all one word, on Instagram. We're trying to grow that meta presence. Let's react to some Discord clips. Do we have anything else in the news really that's pressing? I mean, the situation in Iran. I largely covered that now at this point. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But we went over the last 24 hours. Doesn't seem like things are going to diffuse despite what everybody's saying. And everything else has kind of been covered. But we can react to some Discord clips. If you aren't in my Discord, go ahead and join in my Discord. You guys can send clips that I can react to. I honestly prefer it to not be political because I do all political stuff. So I want it to be a little bit of a break, a stim break, right? Let's see. This is from Fox News. President Trump was spotting chatting with New York Knicks and Madison Square Garden owner James Dolan in his suit during Game 3 of the finals. As them chopping it up. So, look, the president being at the finals is base, but not when we have the situation in Iran like it looks right now. You know, definitely not a good time. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some Discord clips. I see a few good ones in here, so I'll go ahead and make the effort to take a look. Guys, you got to realize some of these clips you send me, like, I'm on YouTube, bro. You guys are sending me, like, footage of, like here, I'll go through it. Let's get that nice and big. Pause. 16-year-old Mernda Aussie teen Declan was hunted by a Sudanese youth gang, then stabbed 56 times and received 66 blunt force injuries. Oh, my God. That is horrendous. These youths are embarrassing people like Ryad and facts. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. I don't even know if I could watch that on YouTube. Is that the actual CCTV footage of the incident? Let me see. Oh, this is a screenshot. Did you send the X link? Let me see if can I even watch this on here? What is going on, bro? What are we doing? Okay, is this a link you sent? I don't know if you meant to send this link, but this is just ridiculous. What are we doing? What are we doing? These niggas is scrapping, bro. I can't help but kind of laugh. Bro, they're bugging. This nigga right here is really throwing. Damn. What can I say, man? You know, I spoke about this before. I gave a monologue about this before, and I said exactly what you think I'm probably going to say in response to this video. I don't even know what the context is, why all these kids are brawling. This is allegedly at a graduation. I don't know. I didn't read the details. Honestly, I don't even want to read any more details. Sickens me. But, you know, us black people tend to congregate, and when the number is large enough and all of us are together at a concert or a graduation or at the let out of a club, hell tends to break loose as a result. And so, just ridiculous. It begins to get tiresome for somebody like me. Look, obviously I'm black. I know there's the whole joke about Sudanese, Arab, admiring and stuff, but I'm black, he's black. And stuff like this hurts our image, you know? I saw a video the other day of these black kids fighting, and as a result, the fight was leaking into like this shopping center, like crossing area. I don't know if anybody can find the video. They knock like this white soccer mom down on the ground fighting, and I mean, she hit the deck hard. She's probably like a 40 or 50-year-old woman. She hit the deck hard, maybe went to the hospital for her injuries, whatever. And you got to think about it. Something like that happens to her, and then I'm behind some bitch in line, or that lady or whoever it is, and she looks back at me and she like clutches her fucking shit, and it's just frustrating for me. Now, should you outwardly be racist or prejudiced to people who are not your color because of pattern recognition online? Preferably no, right? You should give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but it's selfish of me to assume somebody who's not my color should treat me like I'm not going to be a threat when people who look like me are doing shit like that. And that's why it becomes increasingly frustrating, because I suffer as a result. It's like they're Israel and I'm America. Okay? I don't actually want to do any bullshit in the Middle East, but because Israel's doing all this bullshit in the Middle East, now I have to step in and bomb a bunch of people. It's like that with all these black people. It's like they're getting into these brawls and these fights, and I'm here like, hey, please, I don't want to have to defend this. I don't want to have to be subject to the symbol of that. And, you know, that's what it is. But, you know, and I always say this, and this is maybe unpopular. People always get mad when I talk about this, but it's like, look, there's tons of black, excellent doctors and engineers, and there's more of them now than there ever was. And so God bless them. That is very good and refreshing to see, and I want that to increase. But our youth, man, our youth, somebody's got to say it. Our African-American youth have a behavioral issue on public transport, in malls, in restaurants, and increasingly so. I'm seeing videos on Instagram and X, and maybe some of this is cherry-picked. I understand what the counter argument may be, but overall, we have an issue of behavior, and it must be fixed. It must be fixed. So it's stuff like that that really just drives me nuts when I see it, you know. And I don't mean to do the whole like crash out thing. I like to be soft around these issues, but really just get straight to the point, you know. I don't like to see it. I don't like to see it. So it is unfortunate. And people say, you know, all my Arab friends are like, yo, you're Arab, you're not black. It's like, bro, I'm as black as can be. You know, I'm dark skinned. I've got coarser hair. Hair pretty soft though. See that? You know, and like of course I'm black, you know, so that stuff hits home for me. I want my people to be excellent. I want my people to not be associated with such poor behavior and or rhetoric, but it's like, bro, they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy for other people to assume the best in them because it's always some bullshit. So it is what it is, but you know, niggas ain't never gonna learn, bro. Niggas ain't never gonna learn. I was talking about that, you know, I live in Connecticut. I used to go to college in New Haven. For those of you in Connecticut or New Haven, shout out to you guys. You're familiar with the area. And there's this strip, I think it's called Crown Street. There's this strip of like bars and clubs and whatever. And me and my friend, I'm not even kidding. This sounds like such a lie. He can tell you this. Me and my Arab friend, my Syrian friend, God bless him, I love him to death. We would always go get coffee at one of my boys' shops, or not coffee, actually, these like Middle Eastern pita wraps and stuff like that. He has this nice restaurant in downtown New Haven. And then we get coffee at this like cafe, this Arab Muslim cafe, whatever. We would just hang out, not do any haram stuff. And we would see the let out at these clubs. And bro, the cops had to roll so deep every time there was a let out for one particular club. I swear to God, if you live in New Haven, you know what I'm talking about. Every time these niggas came outside, bro, it was something popping off. It was, what, nigga? What? Like, it was really always static. And it's like, bro, again. And the cops would have to blare their sirens to clear the strip before a fight started. And it was like literally every night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you were at least getting 1 to 2 fights. A big brawl in the street. So it's like, bro, you know, we congregate, and I get it, a little bit of alcohol, and it's like this drama-ridden, just violent mess. And the cops are all over it, breaking it up. And we're just watching on the corner of the block, like sipping coffee. Like, I swear to God, we were working on a business at the time. I did a business with this guy. And we would always like go to the cafe, work on the laptop, spreadsheet some stuff, come up with ideas, brainstorm, hang out, right? And we would hear all the ruckus outside because this cafe was very close to where these clubs were. It's all on the same street. And so we were just a block over from where all the madness was, and we would hear it from inside the cafe. So we'd go outside, and it's just a whole bunch of, what, nigga? What? And it's just a bunch of swinging and nonsense, and shit was fun to watch. We would be there enjoying it. It'd be a full-on WWE SmackDown Raw for free. No tickets. You know, you just stand at the corner, make sure you don't get hit. And, you know, sometimes if you got too close, you get caught in the crossfire, nigga. So you got to be careful, but it was enjoyable to say the least. But really, like that stuff like that is demoralizing. That's not good. So, you know, that's we don't like that stuff. Anyways, all right. You sent something else with the case for Carmelo Anthony, but I'm not following that too closely, so I'll rely on my brother for that coverage. The man who shot somebody in broad daylight. Okay. We'll segue over to this really quick. I think I saw this on X. What is this? Armand and Adrien Broner fighting?
You know where I'm at? You see how you flat-footed in the back?
Bro, yeah. Michael Jackson,
here. Stay here.
Bam.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That nigga's still quick.
There you go.
That nigga, That was fast. Hang on. Anybody see that? That was pretty quick.
Where I'm at? You see how you flat-footed in the back?
Bro, yeah. Michael Jackson here.
Stay here.
Bam.
Oh shit, he still got it. Yo, I'm not fucking with that nigga. Yo. If you don't know, Adrien Broner has been like streaming and drinking his ass off with this other guy, Dean the Great. They do these like IRL streams. They've been blowing up like crazy in popularity all over X and Instagram and stuff. But he was a 4-time world champion, Adrien Broner. He was a great boxer. I think he fought Floyd Mayweather. He lost, but this guy was official at one point.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And this is Arman Sarukian, a current UFC fighter on the roster. Soon to be champion, I believe.
Then you got to
Yeah. What about the if I jab you, you do the slip jab?
You can. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm saying that if I jab you, you jab with your jab.
It's easy.
Damn, nigga.
That's automatic.
What? Damn. Whoa. Hello. Why is he smacking him like that? I know Arman is I know Arman is fused. He is fuming from that.
That's easy.
Pop.
That's
Look at how
automatic.
he's popping him. Pop.
Now I'm on top of
Damn.
you now.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm like, oh.
He fixed his hair. Yo, bro, that's a little too hard.
When I'm on top of you, I'm just all day. It don't matter.
All right, that's a bit softer.
Then I'm just controlling you.
All right, anyways, I'm not trying to watch these guys teach each other fighting lessons for 20 minutes, but he popped the shit out of him in the head.
My brother.
What else do we have in here? What's this?
Let me go through his dating app messages, and I need to talk about it because what the fuck is wrong with women? First girl.
Oh, don't we love her? Good Floyd. I thought this was going to be a painful watch, but this actually might be enjoyable.
They match. He asks her on a date. She says, "Where are you taking me?" He says, "A steakhouse downtown." She says, "It the expensive one or the one on 5th Street?" He said 5th Street. She unmatched him.
Brutal. Yeah, welcome to being a male, nigga.
Unmatched him over the location of a steakhouse. Second girl, talked to for a week. He planned a whole date, coffee, then a walk by the river. She texted him the morning of, "Honestly, I'm more of a dinner and drinks girl. If you can't do that, then I don't think we're compatible."
Ugh. What in the world? Couldn't you, for the females in here, probably not a lot, okay? This is probably like a male-dominated stream. But for the girls who are hopefully in here, isn't it a dream scenario if a guy goes, "Hey, do you want to go for like a walk and get some coffee?" Like, I feel like that probably would be the best date. Like, I don't talk to Foids, I'm an incel, but if I were to like ask a girl on a date, I'd be like, "Hey, want to go for a walk? You know, want to get like a espresso?" Or I don't know, like, you know, the whole drinks dinner thing, like, is that not played out? Is that not super repetitive? I feel like you don't really gain the opportunity to know the person you're eating. Imagine you're on a date, you order like pasta, you're like slurping your fucking spaghetti. Like, that's just not conducive to like a wholesome interaction and connection to get to see if you really like somebody. God forbid a nigga says, "Let's get coffee in the morning," and then a walk by the river. But see, like, all right, here's the thing. I'll be honest. I'll give some quick game. I'll give some quick game here, okay? Fellas, take out the notebooks. Hey, so this is her brother's text, and obviously she's defending him. God bless her, but her brother did make a critical mistake here, and I'll go ahead and highlight that for you. Hey, looking forward to today. Smiley emoji. All right, nigga. Already, everything about that text is wrong. You don't say hey with the exclamation point. Like, you're overextending, overreaching already early on in the conversation right after, I'm assuming, he matched with her, whatever. This is, what is this, Tinder? And so you go, "Hey, look, I mean, read that text." Because, you know, obviously there's a loss of translation in text messages. Wow, this just turned into like a red pill stream. We'll keep this segment short. But like, read that text message, right? And imagine like his mannerism on the other side. Like, imagine him saying that, "Hey, looking forward to today." Like, it's like, bro, don't text like that. Like, that's actually really gay. So what he should have said was, actually, I guess, so this is the day of the date. Now I'm understanding. He should have just said, "Hey," nothing else, no exclamation, no nothing, no emojis. And he goes, "Plan is coffee in the morning at Riverbend Cafe around 10. Then a walk by the river, exploring the park, and maybe grabbing a pastry or something along the way. Sound good? And it's like, bro, first of all, why are you putting the ball in her court? Don't ask her if it sounds good. Tell her this is what we're doing, okay? Tell her this is what we're doing. Have a little bit of testosterone here, okay? So what he should have said was, let's get coffee and then a walk. That's it. Or let's just get coffee and you know that you're going to take her on a walk, but you tell her in person. This whole let's get coffee at 10. That's all you need to say. This whole around 10, then I'll walk by the river, then exploring the park and something. It's like you're overreaching. It's like you're super excited. This is your only date of the week. Like super gay. Like, bro, you gotta be, and I know this is the basic advice, but you really have to be nonchalant. You're like giving her way too much power and authority by asking her if it sounds good and giving her all the details. There should be some element of mystery in so that she can actually wonder if you like her, as well as the fact that she can wonder what you guys are going to do. Now, obviously that builds a little bit of anxiety, but some of that is good. That can kind of create a pressure that creates a diamond in the relationship and the connection. Oh, this guy is just telling me what it is, let's get coffee. I'm looking forward to today. It's like, I really don't like that way of texting a girl. That's really corny. And look, in a perfect world, this is the way to talk to a woman. In a perfect world, this is the way you deal with a void. You're respectful. You send her a nice little emoji. You say, we're going to do this and that. And you make it seem like this fun ordeal and you're excited about it. But we are not in 1961. We're not in the 1950s. That actually doesn't earn you success with women. What will earn you success with women is actually being super nonchalant, rolling everything off your shoulder, saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you like tacos? No, it's, hey, I like tacos. Friday at 5, this place. We're going to go by a walk, and then we're going to go to the river, then we're going to do the park, and then we're going to hike, and then we're going to get pastries. It's like, don't do that. You're burning yourself. And a good girl will respond and say, oh my God, yes. But ultimately, bro, she's not going to be going for you talking like this. Super cringe. But anyways, I'll let the girl.
They never even met, and she's already got a price tag on his time. Third girl told him, and this is a direct quote, I'm talking to a few guys right now, so whoever plans the best first date is probably who I'll go with. She literally turned his dating life into a bidding war. Y'all are out here treating men like DoorDash for a free night out and then wondering why they stopped putting in effort. I'm genuinely embarrassed.
That's crazy. I mean, look, bro, it's the marketplace we're in. This is just what it is. This is what you're getting with the foids now. So take it or leave it. If AB wasn't drinking and partying on every stream and focused more on boxing content, he'd be a lot better off. Thank you, Dominicano, for the $20. And yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. He would be a dog if he had not, streamed like that. But I think he's probably making a ton of money on Kick right now with all his streams. Let's see. The Scribe Voices says, have you checked on your brother? He was shedding a few tears on stream before he got off. Yeah, I saw the situation. I haven't checked in with him. I can guarantee he's probably sleeping right now. But I will get in contact with him soon. There was this whole situation. You can check out his previous stream. But yeah, what were we talking about? Look, here's the real deal. Okay, here's the real red pill for a lot of you young men out there. And I know a lot of older guys watch me, and so maybe this will already resonate, or you'll agree with me, maybe you'll disagree. But for the younger guys, or the guys who are actively dating, even if maybe you're a little older than me, trust me when I say, always, if you forget everything about how to deal with women, always remember, the girl is never the main priority. And you never extend that idea or that rhetoric towards her. Don't let that become obvious towards her. You're on a date, or you want to go on a date with a girl, plan something after the date. Plan something after the date so that you're not overreaching into the conversation. You're getting food with her, you're getting drinks, I don't know, you're going for a walk and then going on a hike and then getting pastries, whatever you're doing. Plan something with your boys after. Use them. Say, yo, can you do something with me after this date so I don't have to overextend and bank on it too much? And your energy will come off that way in the interaction. And she'll also go, oh, he has other things to do after this? A lot of you guys are too much texting, too much this and that, checking up on them. You plan a date with a girl on Monday. For Thursday, don't text her until Thursday. Text her Thursday and say, 5 good? That you planned on Monday. You told her 5 on Monday. Text her on Thursday, say, I'll see you at 5. She says, yeah, okay. Leave her wondering, bro. Leave her in a little bit of limbo. You give these girls an inch and it's over. Don't let them have any sort of leverage over you. Don't give them a heads up. Don't make them feel super comfortable. You make them feel comfortable when you're with them. When you're texting them, don't do all of that like emoji, good morning, good night. A lot of guys make that mistake. I always see my close buddy always makes the mistake. I'm not going to name drop him because that's crazy, but he always makes the mistake of like overextending, texting her for prolonged periods of time, weeks and weeks. And it's like, bro, you're putting yourself in the most predictable zone. She's not going to be attracted to you. You have to be a little bit more rambunctious. You have to be a little bit more unpredictable. LARP a little bit. You know, I'm not advocating for a guy to lie, but it's like LARP a little bit. Make it seem like there's something going on in your life. Like a girl wants a guy who's busy because at the end of the day, she's investing in you. If she sees you're a loser who has nothing to do except text some foid, that being her, she won't even respect you. She'll go, why does he have all this time? Is that somebody she foresees a future of security with and prosperity and a roof over her head and money and a house, a masculine figure? No, she'd actually want somebody who like doesn't make her everything. And so she understands he actually has things going on with himself. You can't pedestalize them. They'll immediately put their foot on your head and kick you down to the ground. So, a little bit of game. And I'm sure many of you guys know that, but a lot of guys like make that mistake without realizing, like texting a girl in super detailed paragraphs, letting her know what's going to happen. And it's like, bro, just stop actually, And honestly, the best way to combat that, I'm not advocating for getting bitches, but I know a lot of you niggas ain't Muslim. If you get bitches, that'll help, because if you have that option, if you have that list, you're not always going to be overextending towards the only one. You have a few different ones. But of course, we know that is
haram.
I must give that pretext. Or that post-text, I already gave the advice. But anyways, yeah, man. Don't be a goof, all right? Let's see. Cryptic Vixen says, I'm a girl. Oh, what's up? We got a girl in here. It's a joke. I'm a girl. Girls are not online, IRL fellas. Yeah, that's another thing too. But here's the thing. I agree with you. Talking to a girl in person is far more beneficial, but no guy has the balls to do it. And honestly, the guys who have the balls to do it tend to get shot down, and so they have this trauma to not do it anymore. But you got to have a goldfish memory. You really got to not, like, how can I say this without being in trouble? Because I have to watch what I say for many of you who understand why. It just does come from an area of supremacy. Put it that way. You have to believe you're better than the girl. Not to sound crude, not to sound nasty. A girl does not want a guy who doesn't obsess over himself. You have to think you're better than her. You have to feel like you supersede her in every category. You're smarter than her. You're funnier than her. You're hotter than her. But that comes from true conviction of yourself. You cannot fake that. So you have to really hone in on this idea that I'm the man. Anybody who gets me is lucky. If that comes out in your persona, that idea that you think you're better than her, immediately, despite your looks, despite everything else, she may be intrigued. It's the guys that like give the girl way too much. Like, honestly, when you're talking to a girl, you should be talking about yourself. Like, I don't think it's actually smart to be interested in what she has to say too much. Like, don't ask her too much about work. Don't ask her too much about her life. This may sound counterintuitive. I'm telling you it's true. You're dealing with girls in 2026. This is the way you got to deal with them. These are vicious women who make tons of money online, who get tons of attention online. You coming up to her in person and going, what do you do for work? What did you study? That's like not going to get anywhere. It's not going to cut it because every other guy says that. If you go up to her and maybe say, hey, what's your name? And she responds to you, try to take what she's saying and bounce it back on you. You have to be self-obsessed. It's the narcissist. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. The narcissists are the ones who get bitches. The egomaniacs, the bad boys, the leather jackets, the assholes are the ones who actually have the most success with women. Ask yourself why. Because at the end of the day, biologically, that is a tell that you will do something with your life, that you are doing something with your life, that you don't determine your worth by your success with this girl, and so you're overreaching to figure out everything about her and be respectful. It's like, No, she's a byproduct of what your reality is and what it will continue to be. So it has to be this perspective where she's going to join on the ride, not that she's ever going to take control or ownership of the wheel and steer your direction. You have to give that off in the way you talk to her. If you do not, she will not likely be attracted to you. And if she is, God bless her, she's probably an uncorrupted girl who's never done anything. But again, how far and few between is that? How rare is that? You know, someone said women don't respond to logic. Precisely. Precisely. Everything you think works doesn't. I kid you not, bro. I see guys who have success with girls that are like borderline violent with them. They're crazy. They're crazy. So if you always struggle with girls and you're like this guy sending messages for the first date saying, hey, we're going to get coffee. We're going to actually like that idea, like coffee and a walk. But don't do the whole text. Like, you should focus on trying to be a little bit more self-obsessed. But again, don't fake it. I always have said women have this extra sense that men don't have. And it's being able to sniff out a bitch nigga versus a real nigga. Wallahi, swear to God. Swear to God. Women have this uncanny ability to sniff out a real nigga from a bitch nigga right away. And by real nigga and bitch nigga, let me be a little bit more specific because that's kind of arbitrary or vague. A guy who's highly self-confident versus a guy who is a little bit more self-conscious. If you are a man who is highly self-confident, you have full conviction that you are the shit, you're better than her. As mean and crude as this may sound, I don't mean to sound so maniacal and cynical. And if you give that off, she will like you. She will want to figure out what's more. Because if you never overextend, I'm really like doing this. If I don't like to do these monologues. If you overextend, to her, she's getting everything. It's oversatisfaction. You're oversaturating her with what she already receives every day on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, whatever. And so if you kind of pull back and become a little bit more self-obsessed, it gives her something to look for, which is that extra attention, validation. And it has to do with the comments you make. A lot of guys, Dan Blazarian said this in a video, and it was remarkable. I saw this clip on like Instagram a couple weeks ago. It went viral. He was saying a lot of guys go up to a girl and they go, you're so pretty, what's your name? And it's like they hear that all night. You should challenge her. And that's true. You should go up to a girl and go like, hey, actually, I don't know if that color suits you. And or something like that. I don't know. I don't go up to girls, clearly. I don't have experience with this. But I'm just telling you from what I see and what I hear. And my brother gives the game. And I listen to all these guys. And I pay attention to what happens to my friends. I'm telling you, I'm a quick learner. I'm not stupid. Like, this is what's going to actually draw out the most success if you want to try and attack the idea of getting women and having success with women and having a roster, because real niggas have a roster. This is, I'm being literally tongue in cheek. Don't clip that. But like, you know what I'm saying? This is how you have to do it. You have to be the dickhead. I'm telling you. God knows I'm telling the truth. I'm telling you. This is for the guys that want to do the haramery. If you want a good wife, like, don't do this, okay? But this is for the guys that want to do the haramery. You want to get the girl that everybody wants. You got to treat her the way everybody's not treating her, and that's like shit, okay? It is what it is. And if a girl is really honest, if she's really honest and self-aware, because a lot of girls aren't self-aware, so they don't realize this works on them. This is why you don't ask them what they like, because they don't realize what works on them. But if a girl is self-aware and critically honest, she'll tell you he's right. She'll listen to what I'm saying right now and say he's right. So, you know, it is what it is. I be trying to tell. I always tell my friends, you know, I got a good friend. I love him to death, and I always notice he's too warm, too inviting, too bubbly, too ha. And it's like, no. And I'm not saying be the tough, scary guy, but just be. Just be. There's no word after that. Just be, nigga. Just be. Just flow. You get what I'm saying? Like, a lot of niggas are performing. Do not perform. You are you, okay? She has to perform for you. The stage is hers. There's no stage for you. Even though you do have to, like, kind of gesture a little bit. But you know what I mean? Like, hopefully that message is understood if I got that across clearly. You know? Because I'm telling you, that video you sent, like, yeah, that's a problem, and so I'm addressing that. But I increasingly see that with a lot of guys my age, like the overextension, the dude, nobody wants to talk to me. And it's like, dude, you're also super nice. You're also super like transparent, and like, you'd be surprised. Try being a little bit more of an asshole. Try being challenging. Pick something out about them that doesn't look good, that's not appealing. You know? She has earrings on, be like, are those your only earrings? It's not a compliment, it's not a diss, but immediately she'll go, no, why? And then now she's fighting for your attention. You just made her fight for your attention inadvertently. She doesn't even realize it. I am teaching like manipulation, but like, you get what I'm saying. You know, just, this is the game. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. What? I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about it. Okay? I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be Mr. Political Correct. Hold the door open. It's like, bro, chivalry is actually like not effective anymore. So, is what it is. Is what it is. Someone said get to the news. I already got to the news, bro. You must be late. I covered everything that happened in the last 24 hours. This is a Monday stream. I'm not even supposed to be live, but I covered the news. Let's see. You got a couple super chats or one super chat. KB says, if y'all watch Clav stream with 304s, he legit looks like he sounds like he doesn't give a F. He does that on purpose, fellas. That shit works. Yeah, he looks right through the girl. You know, it's like the girl is a hologram. It's like she's transparent and he's not looking at her. He's just looking through her. And that's what works. With modern day women in the club or bar setting, that's what's going to get you success. You know, guys are always doing this overextension, being a nice guy. It's like, bro, it's 2026, bro. Did no one tell you that that doesn't work anymore? Like, holy late. So, but yeah, anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for all the news and everything that I've covered. Give the chat your leftovers. Okay. Ignore Foyds at the gym. Yeah, I don't know if I like gym game. Gym game is a little, you know, don't shit where you eat. Take it that way. Gym game, work game, I don't sponsor that. I don't advocate for gym game, work game. Run down on a girl. Run down on a girl that, if you're going to talk to a girl, go up to a girl in an area like you don't frequent or like you know you won't see her at. Like, common sense says, don't start a situation with a girl where you constantly have to share a space with her unless you want to take her serious as a long-term partner. You're going to destroy like your work life or your gym life. So, yeah, someone said get to the effing news. Like, bro, I already did the news thing for 2 hours. You know? Oh, I might have dropped off a little. I may have dropped frames. I'm back. Well, shit. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I think I should be good. Anyways, all right, guys. Love all of you. No, I don't have Huz. I just have a brain. What haircut you get, Ryad? Just a normal haircut, bro. My hair is a little long. Yeah, we dropped off. My hair is a little long. Refresh the stream if the audio's delayed. Yeah, I got a little, you know, a little fro. A little very baby fro. Not noticeable fro. A little taper. A little taper, so. Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys like the womanizing session. Not bad, right? Someone said, Ryad, are you allowed to cover basketball? I think I'm allowed, but I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? What kind of matrix is that? I'm not muted. Refresh the stream, please. Can we get a full fro? I don't know about a full fro. Look, I live a corporate life, okay? I live a corporate life. I got to maintain some sort of professionalism. This is already pushing the boundary, okay? First of all, I've got the goatee. And I got like a fro with a taper. Like, that's kind of pushing the needle a little bit. You know, I'm really looking unprofessional. So, cover NBA Finals? No. But do you guys like the girl talk? I don't like to do that too much because, like, that's not my thing. I don't talk to women, but, you know, a lot of guys do, and they can benefit from that. So, you know, I see a guy being a jester like that video. I got to say something because I know ball, okay? I know ball. I know ball. Fresh and fit coming soon. I'm kidding. I don't know. All right, guys. Love all of you. It's a good stream. I got a little bit cortisol max in the beginning, but we're all good. Love all of you guys. I'll be back maybe tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, expect Wednesday or Thursday. You guys know the schedule. I have the schedule on my YouTube cover page. I apologize. It really hasn't been accurate recently, but kind of like a end of the week thing is how I like to roll. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday is when I like to start the stream up and give you guys the news for the week. It's usually the best time because I can cover everything that's happened in like the last 72 hours. I have a lot of stories. But yeah, if you enjoyed the stream, please like the video, sub to the channel. If you haven't already, check out my most recent videos. I went hard on a lot of them. And we'll be back soon, hopefully with Myron at some point. Love all of you guys and have an amazing night. Peace and love. Do I have any super chats? No. Peace and love. Love you guys.